When my husband James filed for divorce after 15 years of marriage, I didn't scream, beg, or throw things. I simply nodded, signed the papers, and said softly, "Then I wish you the best, James." He looked almost relieved, like a man who'd been rehearsing that conversation for months. His tie was perfectly knotted, his expression carefully composed, like he was performing calmness instead of feeling it. "I just need a new life," he said. I smiled. "Then I hope you enjoy it." He didn't realize that I already knew he'd started living that new life months ago, with her. That night, I saw it with my own eyes. I was driving home when I passed Vincenzo's, our favorite restaurant. The place where he'd proposed. The place where we used to say, no matter what happens, we'll always come back here. Through the window's warm glow, I saw him, sitting at our old corner table, holding the hand of a red-haired woman who looked half my age. Her laugh was high and light, the kind of laugh that sounds rehearsed. Their wine glasses clinked. His smile, that same smile he once saved for me, looked effortless. I parked across the street and watched for a minute. Then I decided to go inside. The maitre d' recognized me instantly, his face tightening in surprise. "Mrs. Carter, good evening." "Just Michelle, please," I said. "And I'll be joining my husband." Every step toward their table felt like walking through smoke, the air thick, the noise distant, my heartbeat too loud. James saw me before I spoke. His fork froze midair, eyes wide, mouth half open. "Michelle? What are you doing here?" I smiled, calm, composed, terrifyingly polite. "I just wanted to congratulate you on your freedom." I set the cream-colored envelope gently on the table between their plates. "To a new life," I said. The red-haired woman blinked. James frowned, confused, then curious. I didn't wait for him to open it. I turned, walked past the maitre d' and stepped out into the cool night air. Through the glass door, I saw him tear open the envelope. His smile vanished. His hand trembled as his eyes darted across the page. The color drained from his face. He looked up sharply, but I was already gone. That moment, that look, was the quiet ending of our marriage. But the story began 6 months earlier. It was a Tuesday morning. The twins were at school, our daughter Emma was at her piano lesson, and I was doing laundry, the kind of ordinary routine that makes you feel safe. I picked up one of James's shirts from the hamper, a crisp white dress shirt he'd worn to a late-night meeting. At first, I thought the faint red mark on the collar was lipstick from me, until I realized I hadn't worn lipstick in weeks. It wasn't my shade. It wasn't my mistake. My stomach dropped. For years, I'd known every scent, every crease, every subtle detail of his world. His cologne, the faint scent of coffee he carried, the way his phone was always face down during dinner. But that red stain said more than any confession ever could. Still, I told myself I was imagining things. Maybe a colleague hugged him. Maybe it was nothing. But when late nights at the hospital became weekends away, when the gym became his new obsession, when Shell turned back into Michelle, the truth became impossible to ignore. Something had changed. Or maybe I had just stopped pretending not to see it. I started watching more closely, the way he checked his phone under the table, how he smiled when he read certain messages, how he came home smelling faintly of a perfume I didn't wear. When I asked, "Everything okay at work?" he smiled without looking at me. "You worry too much." That was the last time he looked at me like his wife. 3 weeks later, my suspicions turned into certainty. His conference in Paris was real, but not for the reasons he claimed. I found the hotel receipt while cleaning out his office drawer. 2 tickets, 2 guests, 1 king-size bed. I didn't confront him. Not yet. I wanted proof that couldn't be denied. So I contacted a private investigator. Within days, photos arrived. James on the streets of Paris, his arm around a young redhead, her lipstick the same deep crimson as the stain on his collar. The same woman he'd later bring to Vincenzo's. He looked happy. I didn't. When he returned home that weekend, he hugged me out of habit. "It's good to be home," he said. I smiled. "Is it?" 2 days later, he handed me divorce papers. 15 years reduced to signatures and silence. I signed them, folded the pages, and slipped the DNA test results, the ones that had arrived that very morning, into the cream envelope that would change everything. I wasn't shaking anymore. The heartbreak had hardened into something steady, focused. Revenge wasn't about hurting him. It was about truth. And truth, when revealed at the right time, destroys quietly, completely. That night, I sealed the envelope, whispered to myself, "To a new life," and placed it in my purse. Tomorrow, he'd learn what those words really meant. I didn't sleep that night after leaving Vincenzo's. I sat on the edge of my bed, still in the dress I'd worn to deliver the envelope, staring at the half-empty glass of wine on my nightstand. My hands trembled, not from regret, but from the weight of what came next. The envelope had done its job. The truth was out. But the truth wasn't finished yet. Because what James read in that restaurant, what turned his face ghostly pale, wasn't the whole story. It was just the beginning. It had all started months earlier, right after I'd discovered the lipstick stain. I remember every second of that morning. The sunlight came through the blinds in thin golden lines, cutting across the floor. It should have been an ordinary Tuesday, but instead, it became the day I began to see my marriage for what it really was. When I saw that red mark on his shirt, I felt something break. Not loudly, but quietly, like glass cracking under pressure. I didn't confront him right away. That wasn't me. I'd learned long ago that reacting too soon only gave him more power. James had always been composed, even manipulative when it came to emotions. He'd make me feel small for being hurt. He'd say things like, "You always jump to conclusions, Michelle." So instead, I played along. That night, I made his favorite dinner, roast chicken and garlic potatoes. He kissed my forehead absently, muttering that he had to catch up on hospital paperwork. I smiled and nodded. "Of course," I said, while he carried his plate to his study and closed the door. After he fell asleep, I went into that same study. The scent of his cologne still lingered in the air. His phone was locked, but the laptop wasn't. He had left it open, a mistake he would regret. At first, I didn't know what I was looking for. Maybe confirmation, maybe denial. But what I found was worse, an email from Emily Roberts, his research assistant. It wasn't work-related. "You left your shirt again," she'd written. "Next time, I'll keep it as a souvenir." Beneath it was a photo. Her, wearing his shirt, the same white one I'd found that morning. Her lipstick was the same shade of red. That night, I printed every message, every photo. I didn't cry. I didn't even shake. It was as if my emotions had shut down to protect me. For the next 2 weeks, I gathered everything. Travel receipts, hotel bookings, fake conference invitations. He thought he was clever, labeling expenses as continuing education. But I'd been married to James Carter long enough to know how he hid things, in plain sight, under layers of respectability. And then came the moment that changed everything. A phone call from a number I didn't recognize. "Mrs. Carter?" A woman's voice said softly. "This is Claire. I think we need to talk." I almost hung up, assuming it was another scam call, but something in her tone, hesitant, fragile, made me pause. "Do I know you?" I asked. "No," she said quietly, "but I know your husband." Those words froze me. We met the next afternoon at a small cafe downtown. She couldn't have been older than 28, blonde, nervous, holding a folded napkin in her lap like a shield. "I didn't mean to get involved," she said, tears already filling her eyes. "He told me he was separated, that you were both just waiting for the paperwork I didn't interrupt." I let her talk. "He said he wasn't sure how to tell you about me, about our son." My stomach turned to ice. "Your son?" She nodded. "He's 3. James has been helping us financially, but he doesn't want anyone to know. He said it would ruin his reputation. I sat there in silence as the pieces fell into place. The hidden transfers, the late nights, the sudden charity donations. My husband wasn't just having an affair. He'd built an entirely separate life. Before I left, she reached into her purse and handed me a photo. A little boy with dark curls and the same deep-set hazel eyes as James. The resemblance was undeniable. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I thought you knew." I thanked her and walked out. I didn't collapse. I didn't scream. I just drove. For nearly 2 hours, no destination, no music, just the sound of my breathing and the wind rushing past. That night, I pulled out one of James's combs, the one he kept in his gym bag. I found a strand of hair, sealed it in a plastic bag, and ordered a DNA test kit online. Not because I needed confirmation, but because I wanted proof that could never be denied. 2 weeks later, the results arrived. The boy was his son, and that's what I'd placed in the envelope at Vincenzo's. I thought that would be the end, that watching his face drain of color would finally give me peace. But it didn't. It only confirmed what I already suspected. James's lies went deeper than I'd imagined. That night, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You shouldn't have done that," it read. No name, no signature. But I knew who it was. The text kept replaying in my mind. "You shouldn't have done that." No name, no punctuation. Just a message that felt colder than any words James had ever spoken to me. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I already knew who it was. It wasn't James. It was her. 2 days had passed since the scene at Vincenzo's, and I was trying to keep things normal for the kids. Breakfast, school runs, laundry, all the tiny rituals that made life feel stable. But underneath, I was on edge. James hadn't called or shown up since that night, but his lawyer had. A thick envelope slid through the mail slot early Wednesday morning, a revised settlement offer. Shorter, colder, and far less generous. "Unreal," I muttered, flipping through the pages. He wanted to keep the house. Our house. The one I'd designed room by room, the one where our children had taken their first steps. I took a deep breath and set the papers aside. He wasn't just trying to end our marriage. He was trying to erase me. And then the phone rang. "Mrs. Carter?" A polite voice asked. "This is Detective Harris with the Westbrook Police Department. Are you available to come in today?" My heart stuttered. "What is this about?" "It's probably nothing," he said carefully. "Just a follow-up regarding a report filed by Mr. James Carter." My hands went cold. "A report?" "Yes, ma'am. Concerning potential harassment and defamation." For a moment, I couldn't speak. He was accusing me. At the station, Detective Harris was professional, almost gentle. "Mr. Carter claims you've been sharing private medical information and making false allegations that could damage his professional reputation." I stared at him, stunned. "You mean the truth?" He gave a cautious shrug. "I'm not here to judge, Mrs. Carter." But he's pressing for a restraining order to keep things civil during the divorce. I felt heat rise in my chest. He lied to me for years. He has a child with another woman. I confronted him once, calmly, and he calls that harassment? The detective sighed. "I'm just doing my job." "But between us, if there's evidence to support your side, you should hold on to it. Courts like paper trails. Paper trails. That's when I realized I had more than a trail. I had an entire map. That night, after putting the kids to bed, I went to my desk and began organizing everything I'd collected. The emails, the travel records, the DNA results, all neatly arranged in folders. As I reviewed them, I noticed something strange. In the documents related to his research assistant, Emily Roberts, there was a recurring name in the email headers, Harrington Medical Group. At first, I assumed it was one of his hospital affiliations, but curiosity got the better of me. I looked it up. It wasn't a research institute. It was a private fertility clinic, one James had been consulting for the past 2 years. Why would a cardiologist need ties to a fertility clinic? The thought made my stomach twist. The next day, I decided to find out. The clinic sat on the edge of town, polished glass walls gleaming in the morning sun. I walked in pretending to be a potential client, my voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. "I'm here to inquire about the Carter program," I said. It was a bluff. The name had appeared several times in the emails. The receptionist froze. "I'm sorry, ma'am. That's not a public program." "Of course," I said smoothly. "I was just told to ask." She smiled too tightly. "Would you like me to take your contact information?" "No," I said, leaning closer. "But tell Dr. Carter his wife says hello." Her eyes widened. I left before she could call anyone. That evening, as I was locking up the house, my phone buzzed again. A new message. "We need to talk. Emily." For a moment, I thought about deleting it, ignoring her, but curiosity and maybe something darker made me reply. "Where?" "The park near Westbrook Library. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. She was already waiting when I arrived, sitting on a bench in a beige coat, sunglasses hiding her eyes. When she saw me, she stood slowly. "I'm not here to fight," she said, her voice quiet. "You deserve to know the truth." "I already know enough," I said coldly. "You have a son with my husband." She hesitated. "That's not exactly true." I frowned. "What do you mean?" She glanced around before speaking again. "The boy, he's not James's biological son. I had IVF treatments at Harrington Medical. James oversaw my case. He helped me skip the waiting list. But later, I found out he used the clinic to hide something. There are records under fake names, withdrawals that don't match any patients." Her words struck me like a slap. "You're saying he was stealing from the clinic?" "I don't know," she whispered. "But whatever he was doing, he made enemies." "And you exposing him publicly?" "That's what scared him." I sat down, my knees weak. The air around us felt heavy. "He said you shouldn't have done it," she continued, "that you didn't know what kind of people were involved." "What kind of people?" I asked. She didn't answer. She just pressed a small USB drive into my palm. "Find out before they find you." That night, I couldn't sleep. The sound of every creak in the house made me flinch. I kept thinking about that flash drive sitting on my desk and the warning in Emily's voice. Whatever James had done, his betrayal was bigger than infidelity. It was business. It was money. And now, it was danger. I didn't open the flash drive right away. For hours, it just sat there on my desk, a small silver object that suddenly felt heavier than it should. I made tea, cleaned the kitchen, folded laundry, every task I could find to keep my hands busy and my mind away from that thin piece of metal that might change everything. But by midnight, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I locked the doors, turned off the lights, and plugged it into my laptop. At first, there were only folders, numbers instead of names. A 314, B207, C118. Each one contained documents, patient files, and transaction logs. The header read, Harrington Medical Group. Every file was signed by the same name, Dr. James Carter. My pulse quickened. I opened one folder at random. It contained clinical records, fertility treatments, donor information, embryo transfers. But something was off. Some of the donor forms were incomplete, missing signatures or patient consent sections. Others were stamped, confidential, internal use only. And then, buried near the bottom, I found something I didn't expect. A document labeled Client Agreement, C. Reynolds. The date stopped me cold. It was the same week I'd been recovering from my second miscarriage. I opened it, and my stomach turned. The file wasn't for a patient, it was a payment authorization, signed by both James and someone named Dr. Henry Cole, transferring $45,000 to a private account in his name. The reason listed was unlisted consultation. I scrolled through more names, families who'd gone through fertility procedures, couples struggling to conceive, their savings drained by special services. I recognized one name immediately: Claire Martin, the woman who'd told me her little boy was James's son. Except the DNA results had proven otherwise. I leaned back in my chair, my heart pounding. James hadn't just cheated. He'd used women, vulnerable families, for profit. The boy wasn't his biological son because he'd arranged the treatments himself. He'd been manipulating embryos, falsifying results, and redirecting funds through the clinic. It was fraud, medical fraud. And it was all right here. I copied everything to a secure folder on my computer and disconnected the drive. My hands were shaking as I hid it under the false bottom of my jewelry box. Sleep didn't come that night. Every sound in the house made me jump. At one point, I swore I heard a car engine idling outside. When I looked out the window, a black sedan was parked across the street, lights off, engine running. I watched it for several minutes before it finally pulled away. Coincidence or warning, I didn't know, but I suddenly understood what Emily meant when she said, "Find out before they find you." The next morning, I called my friend Nina, who worked as a legal secretary for a firm downtown. She'd always been the pragmatic one among us, sharp, calm, loyal. "I need to show you something," I told her, "and I need your discretion." We met that afternoon at a small cafe near her office. I showed her the copies of the files I'd printed out. She flipped through the pages slowly, her expression hardening. "Michelle, this is bad. This isn't just about infidelity. If these documents are real, he could lose his medical license, maybe even face criminal charges." "I know," I said quietly, "but I can't go to the police yet. He'll deny everything, and I have the kids to think about." "Then you need someone who can protect you," she said, "and someone who knows how to make this stick." She gave me the number of Patricia Lane, a lawyer who specialized in corporate misconduct. "She's tough," Nina said, "and she hates men like James." That evening, as I prepared dinner for the twins, I heard a car door slam outside. I peeked through the curtains and froze. James was standing in the driveway, dressed in his hospital scrubs, his face tense. He hadn't been to the house in over a week. He rang the doorbell once, then again, harder. I opened the door only halfway. "What do you want, James?" He tried to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "We need to talk." "About what? The divorce? The restraining order? Or the woman who texted me threats?" His jaw clenched. "You're making things worse for yourself, Michelle. Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Expose the truth?" I said. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You're meddling in things you don't understand. People get hurt when they don't know when to stop." Something about the way he said people made the hairs on my arms rise. "Is that a threat?" I asked. He shook his head slowly. "It's advice." Then he turned and walked away. I closed the door, locked it, and slid the chain across. My knees felt weak, but inside something shifted. For the first time, I wasn't scared of him. I was angry. That night, I emailed Patricia Lane. Her response came within an hour. "Bring everything you have. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. I closed my laptop and stared at the flash drive still hidden upstairs. James thought he could build a new life on lies. But I had the truth, and I wasn't planning to stay quiet anymore. Patricia Lane's office didn't look like I expected. No marble floors or intimidating furniture, just soft lighting, walls lined with books, and a faint smell of coffee. Yet the moment she shook my hand, I understood why Nina had said she was the kind of woman men like James feared. "Michelle," she said firmly, motioning for me to sit. "I've read the email. Let's start from the beginning." Her voice had that quiet authority that made you want to tell her everything. And I did. I walked her through the timeline, the lipstick stain, the affair, the other woman, the clinic, the files. When I reached the part about the flash drive, she held up a hand. Do you have it with you? Yes. I slid it across the desk. Everything's in there. Patient files, transactions, signatures. He's been using the clinic to move money and falsify records. She nodded slowly, inserting the drive into her laptop. For several minutes, the only sound in the room was the quiet hum of the computer. Her brow furrowed as she clicked through the folders. When she finally spoke, her tone had changed. This isn't minor fraud. These are multiple federal violations: misappropriation of medical funds, falsified patient consent, illegal embryo handling. He could lose his license, yes, but this... She looked up. This could mean prison time. The words landed like a stone in my chest. I should have felt relief, but instead I felt something closer to dread. Can you protect my children? I asked quietly. If this all goes public. She leaned forward. We'll keep them out of it. But you need to be careful, Michelle. If he senses you're working with a lawyer, he'll retaliate. Narcissists like your husband always do. I stared at the folders glowing on her screen. Then what do we do first? Over the next week, Patricia and I worked in secret. Every morning, I dropped the kids at school and drove straight to her office. We spent hours building the case, tracing payments, connecting names, verifying signatures. She had a network of investigators and forensic accountants who could verify every transaction. Everything he touched, she said one afternoon, flipping through a file, was built on other people's pain. Infertility, grief, hope. He monetized it. She was right. Every document told the same story: desperate couples overpaying for exclusive treatment, unaware that their records were altered to funnel money through shell accounts. At night, after the kids were asleep, I kept my phone on silent but near my bed. James hadn't contacted me directly since that night in the driveway, but I'd noticed things, subtle things. A car following me once on the highway. A call that hung up the moment I answered. And then one morning, while I was brushing my teeth, I caught a flash of movement outside the bathroom window. A man in a dark coat standing by the mailbox. He wasn't delivering anything, just standing, watching. I called Patricia immediately. Don't panic, she said. Keep your doors locked. I'll send someone to check your security. She paused before adding, James is scared. That's good. It means we're close. 2 days later, Patricia called with an update. We're ready, she said. But I need you to understand. Once this moves forward, there's no going back. The hospital, the clinic, the board, they'll all know. And James will know it came from you. I took a deep breath. He destroyed everything I built my life around. I'm done protecting him. There was a silence, then Patricia said softly, Good. Because we've scheduled a meeting with the medical board for Friday morning. I want you there. Friday came faster than I expected. I barely slept the night before. As I got dressed, I noticed my hands trembling. It wasn't fear this time. It was adrenaline. The meeting took place in a nondescript building downtown. Patricia and I arrived early, her briefcase heavy with files. A panel of 6 board members sat at the long table, their expressions neutral, professional. Patricia did most of the talking. She explained the pattern of fraud, presented the documentation, and showed how the funds had been rerouted through Riverside Consulting, a company James had registered under his brother's name. When she finished, she slid a final document across the table, a notarized affidavit from Emily Roberts. The board chair, an older woman with sharp eyes, glanced up. Dr. Carter's assistant? Yes, Patricia replied. She confirms his involvement in falsifying patient files and personal gain from unapproved procedures. There was a long pause. Then the chair said, We'll be forwarding this to the district attorney's office. Patricia exhaled slowly. I felt my shoulders relax for the first time in months. That relief didn't last long. When I returned home that afternoon, I found the front door slightly ajar. My heart jumped. I pushed it open carefully, my pulse hammering in my ears. Nothing looked stolen, but the air felt wrong. Then I saw it. My jewelry box, the one where I'd hidden the flash drive, was open. Empty. The drive was gone. I called Patricia immediately. "They took it," I said, my voice shaking. "Someone broke in." "Do you have the backups?" she asked. "Yes, but they're on my laptop." I ran to my desk. The laptop was gone too. Patricia didn't hesitate. "Pack a bag. Take the kids. Go stay with someone you trust. I'll handle the rest." I locked up what was left of my house and drove to my sister's. Every red light felt like a trap. Every car behind me suspicious. When I finally arrived, I sat in the driveway, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. James knew I was fighting back. And now, he was fighting too. I didn't sleep the night after the break-in. Every sound, a door creak, a car outside, even the wind brushing against the windows made my heart jump. My sister tried to calm me down, but I could see the worry in her eyes. I wasn't imagining the danger anymore. It was real, and it had James written all over it. At 7 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was Patricia. "They raided his office," she said. "The board issued an emergency suspension order last night. The hospital turned over all digital records." My breath caught. "Even without my flash drive?" "Yes. Turns out the backups you made and the copies we'd already filed were enough. He's been subpoenaed for questioning." For the first time in months, I let out a shaky laugh. "So, it's over?" "Not yet," Patricia said. "He'll try to control the story. But once the district attorney finishes reviewing the evidence, it will move fast. You should stay with your sister a few more days." I thanked her, but inside I knew hiding wasn't going to end this. I needed to face him. Not for revenge, for closure. That afternoon, James called. The first call since he'd left our house for good. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity, or maybe defiance, won. "You got what you wanted," he said, his voice low, almost tired. "Congratulations." I stayed silent. "You destroyed my career, my reputation. Are you happy now?" "You destroyed yourself, James," I said quietly. "You just thought you were untouchable." He laughed, bitter, hollow. "You never understood how things really work. People don't care about right or wrong. They care about who controls the story." "Then tell me your story," I said. "Why?" "Why did you do it?" There was a pause, then a sigh. "Because I could. Because people trusted me and I stopped caring why he hung up before I could reply." For a long time, I just sat there, staring at the phone. That was the man I'd spent 15 years with. The father of my children. The person I thought I knew better than anyone. But hearing him speak like that, stripped of all charm, made something click inside me. The grief, the anger, the fear, they all gave way to something new. Freedom. 2 days later, Patricia called again. "He's requested a meeting," she said. "His lawyer wants to negotiate before the indictment becomes public." "Negotiate?" I repeated. "He wants to offer a financial settlement in exchange for your cooperation. Silence, essentially." I thought about it for a moment. "I'll meet him." But not to make a deal. The meeting took place in a small conference room at Patricia's office. I arrived first. My hands were steady, my pulse calm. When James walked in, he looked older, thinner, his confidence chipped away. He sat across from me, avoiding my eyes. "You could have kept this private," he said. "Do you know what this will do to our children?" "Our children," I repeated, the words tasting bitter. "The ones you almost dragged into your lies?" "They'll be fine, because they'll know the truth." He rubbed his temples. "You've turned me into a criminal." "You did that yourself," I said. "And you used people who trusted you, women who were desperate to start families. Do you even remember their names?" He looked up sharply, his mask slipping for the first time. "You don't understand what it's like to be me." "No," I interrupted, my voice firm. "You don't understand what it's like to be me. To live next to someone every day and not see the monster they're becoming." He didn't reply. The silence between us was heavy, final. Patricia entered the room and placed a document in front of him. Mr. Carter, the district attorney's office has everything they need. You can cooperate and reduce your sentence, or we can proceed to trial. James's lawyer whispered something in his ear, but I could see the defeat already in his eyes. The man who once believed he could manipulate anyone was cornered by the one person he underestimated: me. He signed the agreement without another word. As he stood to leave, I said quietly, "You once told me you needed a new life. I hope you enjoy the one waiting for you now." He hesitated, then walked out. I never saw him again. In the weeks that followed, everything unfolded quickly. The story broke across local news. Respected cardiologist arrested in fertility fraud investigation. Dozens of patients came forward. The clinic shut down. The hospital issued public apologies. I watched it all from a distance. Not with satisfaction, but with a strange, calm sadness. Justice didn't bring joy. It brought peace. The kids asked questions, of course. I told them the truth, in pieces they could understand. "Daddy made mistakes," I said, "but we'll be okay." And we were. 6 months later, I stood outside Vincenzo's, the same restaurant where it had all begun. The candlelit tables glowed through the windows, laughter spilling out into the warm evening air. I wasn't there to confront anyone this time. I was there to close the circle. I ordered a glass of wine and sat by the window. A young couple nearby held hands, smiling, full of the hope I once had. For a moment, I felt a pang of sadness, not for what I'd lost, but for how long it had taken me to realize I could survive without him. As I raised my glass, I whispered softly to myself, "To a new life. Not his. Mine." My name is Amy Carter, and until a few nights ago, I thought I knew what stability felt like. At 28, I had what most would call a steady, simple life. A small apartment in the city, a job in marketing that kept me sane, and a boyfriend I trusted. His name was Adam. For almost 3 years, Adam had been my home. He was charming in that effortless way that made strangers like him instantly. Warm smile, easy jokes, the kind of man who'd pull your chair out in a restaurant just because that's what gentlemen do. And for the longest time, I believed him. We met at a friend's birthday dinner, and I remember how his laugh cut through the noise like sunlight. Within months, we were inseparable. Morning coffees, weekend trips, the shared toothbrush holder, all the small things that build a quiet kind of love. 8 months ago, he moved in. It felt right at the time. We split bills, though I covered most of the groceries and utilities since he was saving up for a promotion. I didn't mind. That's what partners do, right? Support each other until the balance evens out. But lately, something had changed. Adam had started coming home later, his excuses flimsy. Working on a late pitch, just grabbing a drink with the team. He'd walk in smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't mine. I tried not to overthink it. Tried to be the understanding girlfriend everyone tells you to be. Until that Thursday night, I was standing in the kitchen cutting vegetables for dinner. The apartment was quiet except for the low hum of the fridge. I remember glancing at the clock, 8:52 p.m. He was already an hour late. Again. Then my phone buzzed. A single text. "Don't wait up sleeping at Tessa's tonight." I froze. My first reaction was confusion. Tessa? His coworker? The one who always lingered too close during after-work drinks. The one who once called him my favorite teammate on Instagram. I stared at the screen, rereading the message as if I'd somehow misunderstood it. No emojis, no explanation. Just a statement. Cold. Casual. For a few seconds, everything in me went quiet. The knife in my hand, the vegetables on the counter, the soft light of the kitchen, all suddenly felt unreal, like a scene from someone else's life. Then I typed back, slowly, deliberately. Thanks for informing me. No punctuation, no emotion, just words. And in that small act, something inside me shifted. The Amy who used to cry over small arguments, who second-guessed herself for other people's comfort, she went silent. In her place stood someone else. Someone steady, cold, certain. I turned off the stove. The vegetables burned slightly at the edges, smoke curling up from the pan. The smell was bitter, sharp, fitting. I wiped my hands, walked to the bedroom, and opened the closet. His clothes stared back at me. Crisp shirts, hoodies, the gray sweater I once borrowed on cold nights. It was strange how ordinary betrayal looked in fabric form. I grabbed an empty moving box from under the bed. One by one, I started folding. Carefully, methodically. The first shirt, then another, then another. My movements were calm, mechanical, almost peaceful. Every crease I smoothed out felt like reclaiming a small piece of myself he'd taken. As I packed, flashes of memories played in my mind like a cruel slideshow. His laughter during our first road trip, the way he said, "I love you," half asleep. His promise that we were building something real. Each memory stung like salt, but I kept folding. By 10:15, the closet was bare. By 10:30, the dresser emptied. By 11, the last box was taped shut. 8 boxes total. His entire wardrobe, his shoes, his colognes, his favorite mug that said, "Best boyfriend ever." I stacked them neatly by the door. Then a thought came to me. A quiet, electric one. He said he was sleeping at Tessa's, so that's where his belongings should be. By 11:20, I was carrying the first box to my car. Trip after trip, I loaded everything. The cold night air stinging my skin. The city lights blurring past as I drove across town. Tessa lived only 15 minutes away. I remembered the address from a holiday card Adam once accidentally left open on the counter. Modern apartment complex. Cream-colored brick. Tiny balconies lined with plants. As fate would have it, someone was leaving just as I pulled up. I slipped in through the open door, my arms full of boxes. The elevator hummed quietly. 3rd floor, apartment 304. Laughter echoed faintly behind the door, a woman's voice, light and familiar. I stacked the boxes neatly outside her door. 8 in total, one on top of the other, perfectly balanced. And on the very top, I placed a small note. His belongings. He's yours now, Amy. I stepped back, looked at the tower of boxes, a monument to every lie I'd believed. Then I took a photo. Not for revenge, for proof. Proof that I had finally acted instead of waiting. As I walked back to my car, I expected my heart to race. It didn't. It slowed, calmer with each step. By midnight, I was home again. The bed was half empty, the air quiet. I changed the locks that night. $160, same-day service, worth every cent. At 12:47 a.m., my phone lit up. Where are my things? Another message, then another. By 1 a.m., he was calling. By 4 o'clock, the panic started. I let it ring. Because the moment I read that first text, sleeping at Tessa's tonight, I stopped being the woman waiting for him and started becoming the woman he'd regret losing. When my phone finally stopped buzzing at 4:27 a.m., the silence that followed felt heavier than the noise. I sat on the couch in the half-dark, wrapped in my old blanket, watching the screen light up and fade again. 27 missed calls, 42 unread messages, all from Adam. The last one just said, "Amy, what did you do?" For a while, I didn't reply. I just stared at that message, the small blue bubbles on the screen, thinking how strange it was that someone who used to whisper, "I love you," could sound so small. By sunrise, exhaustion settled in like fog. I took a shower, brewed a strong coffee, and opened the curtains. Outside, the city was waking up, commuters rushing, dogs being walked, sunlight catching on windows. The world kept turning, completely unaware that mine had ended 12 hours earlier. At 7:30 a.m., my phone rang again. I almost ignored it until I saw the name. Diana, Adam's mom. For a second, I hesitated. Diana had always liked me, or so I thought. She'd once told me, "You're the best thing that ever happened to my son." But as soon as I answered, her tone cut like glass. "Amy, what on earth did you do?" She snapped. "Good morning to you too," I said quietly, sipping my coffee. "Don't get smart." "Adam showed up here at 3 a.m. without any of his things. He said you threw him out." "I didn't throw him out, Diana," I said evenly. "He texted me that he was staying at Tessa's. So I helped him move." There was a sharp inhale on her end. "That's not funny. I wasn't joking. You can't just put someone's belongings outside like that. He's your boyfriend." "Correction," I said. "Was." The line went silent for a moment, just the faint hum of static. Then her voice softened. "Amy, honey, he made a mistake. You two have been together for years. Don't destroy something real over a misunderstanding." A misunderstanding. That word echoed in my chest like a cruel joke. I closed my eyes, remembering the exact phrasing of his text. "Don't wait up. Sleeping at Tessa's tonight." There was no misunderstanding in that sentence. "Diana," I said, my voice calm but final. "Your son made a choice. I'm just respecting it." She started to say something else, but I hung up. I didn't owe her an explanation. When I got to work later that morning, the exhaustion was still clinging to me like smoke. My coworker, Mia, noticed immediately. "Rough night?" she asked, handing me a coffee refill. I forced a smile. "You could say that." But the truth was written all over my face. She didn't push, and for that I was grateful. Around noon, a message popped up on my phone again. This time from an unknown number. "You're unbelievable. You humiliated me. I didn't have to ask who it was. Adam." "Actions have consequences," I replied. Seconds later, "You're overreacting." Nothing happened with Tessa. We were just hanging out with friends. I crashed there because it was late. I laughed out loud, earning a strange look from Mia across the table. I typed back, "Then why didn't you mention that in your message? Or pick up when I called?" He didn't reply for 10 minutes. Then, "You're paranoid, Amy. You always blow things out of proportion." That line, "You're paranoid," was one I'd heard before. The first time he came home at 2 a.m. smelling like perfume. The second time he called me insecure for asking why his coworker texted him heart emojis. Every red flag I had ignored came rushing back like a wave. My hands trembled, not from sadness, but from clarity. Gaslighting. That's what this was. And I wasn't going to fall for it again. At 3 p.m., Mia came over. "Amy, your name's trending in our office group chat," she whispered. My stomach dropped. She turned her phone around, showing me a post from Tessa's Instagram story, a photo of 2 wine glasses and a man's jacket on a couch. The caption read, "Unexpected sleepover." The jacket. My jacket. The one I'd bought Adam for Christmas last year. My chest tightened, but I didn't cry. Instead, something inside me hardened into resolve. That evening, when I got home, I blocked his number. I blocked Tessa's too. I made pasta, poured myself a glass of wine, and put on music. Peaceful music. By 10 p.m., the doorbell rang. Once, then again. Harder this time. Through the peephole, I saw him. Adam. Disheveled, red-eyed, still wearing the same jacket. He looked furious. "Amy, open the door," he shouted. "This is insane. You're making me look crazy." I stood silently on the other side. He banged again. "At least talk to me." I waited. Let him knock, yell, plead. Then finally I said through the door, "You already talked, Adam. Remember? Sleeping at Tessa's tonight. That was your speech." There was a pause. Then a bitter laugh. "You think you're so smart? You'll regret this." His footsteps retreated down the hall, echoing against the empty walls. I didn't move until I heard the main door downstairs slam shut. When I finally sat down on the couch again, I realized something. The silence no longer felt heavy. It felt earned. Still, deep down, I knew Adam wouldn't just disappear quietly. Men like him never did. And somehow I could already feel the next storm coming. 2 days passed in silence. For 48 hours, I didn't hear from Adam, didn't see his name flash across my screen, didn't smell his cologne clinging to the hallway. For the first time in months, my apartment felt like mine again. I watered the plants, changed the sheets, and even started sleeping through the night without jolting awake to check my phone. But peace has a short shelf life when someone like Adam is involved. It started on a Tuesday morning. I was halfway through my first meeting of the day when Mia messaged me. "Amy, are you okay? Have you seen Facebook?" My stomach dropped. I hadn't checked Facebook in weeks. I opened the app, and there it was. A long post written by Adam, complete with a photo of us from last year. Breakups are hard, especially when your partner turns on you for no reason. I tried to be patient, but Amy's anger issues and paranoia got out of control. She threw me out, changed the locks, and lied about things that never happened. I hope she gets help someday. There were already over 100 likes and dozens of comments, some from mutual friends, some from people I barely knew. "That's awful, Adam." She always seemed a little intense. "You deserve better, bro." My chest went tight. I wasn't shaking, not yet, but something deep in me ached. I hadn't just lost a relationship. I was being rewritten in real time into the villain of his story. At lunch, Mia sat next to me in the break room. "Are you okay?" "Not really," I admitted. I figured. I saw Tessa commenting on the post. She wrote something like, "Some people just can't handle real love." That stung more than I expected. I'd told myself I didn't care what they thought of me, but seeing my name dragged through digital mud was another wound entirely. That evening, I called my best friend, Olivia. She'd known me since college, long before Adam. She didn't even say hello. "What did that idiot do now?" I told her everything, the post, the comments, the feeling of being publicly dissected. She sighed. "Classic manipulation. He's trying to control the narrative before you can." Her words hit hard because they were true. Adam had always been careful about appearances, charming in public, dismissive in private. This wasn't random. It was strategy. "Do I respond?" I asked. "No," she said firmly. "You don't feed that kind of fire." The truth will come out. I wanted to believe her. But by Wednesday, things escalated. My manager, Hannah, called me into her office. "Amy, sorry to bring this up, but someone sent an email to HR." My heart stuttered. "About what?" She turned the screen toward me. It was an anonymous complaint, claiming I'd been emotionally unstable at work since the breakup, and that I'd once threatened to damage company property. It was absurd, completely untrue, but it was detailed enough to make HR take it seriously. Hannah leaned back in her chair. "I know this isn't like you, but I have to ask. Is someone trying to hurt your reputation?" "Yes," I said, voice low. "My ex." She nodded slowly. "We'll handle this carefully. Document everything." By the time I left the office that day, I felt hollow. Adam wasn't content just to hurt me emotionally. He wanted to dismantle me piece by piece. That night, I decided I wasn't going to play defense anymore. I dug through old messages, screenshots of his late-night texts, his apologies for messing up again, even one from 6 months ago where he'd admitted flirting with Tessa. Just for fun. I saved them all into a folder. Not for revenge, but for protection. Then I opened Facebook. His post was still up. Hundreds of comments now. I didn't write a response. Instead, I posted one photo, the screenshot of his text from that night. "Don't wait up. Sleeping at Tessa's tonight." No caption. No explanation. Just truth. Within minutes, the reactions started rolling in. Shocked emojis. Private messages from people who had believed him until now. Even one from his coworker, Mark. Did he really send that to you? I thought he and Tessa were just friends. Guess you know now, I replied. By midnight, Adam's post was gone. Deleted. I should have felt triumphant, but mostly I felt tired. Tired of playing chess with someone who never fought fair. The next morning, he called from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Amy? He started, his voice low, almost pleading. You didn't have to humiliate me. You did that yourself, I said quietly. He exhaled sharply. You think you won, huh? You think people are on your side now? They'll see who you really are. Adam, I said, they already have. There was silence, then a faint tremor in his voice. You'll regret this. The line went dead. I sat there, staring at my reflection in the dark phone screen. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of him, just aware. Aware of how far he'd go to protect his image. And as I turned off my phone for the night, one thought lodged itself deep in my chest. People like Adam don't stop when they lose control. They double down. And I knew, with chilling certainty, that this wasn't over. I thought deleting his post would end things. That maybe, finally, Adam would accept the breakup, lick his wounds, and move on. But men like Adam don't move on. They regroup. They plot. 3 days later, I woke to a message from my bank. Suspicious activity detected. Please confirm this purchase attempt someone had tried using my credit card at a gas station an hour away. Twice. Both declined. My heart thudded in my chest. I'd canceled the shared emergency card weeks ago, but Adam had a habit of remembering numbers he wasn't supposed to. I called the bank immediately. Yes, I told the rep. That card should be blocked. The woman on the other end confirmed, but her voice carried that tone, the kind reserved for victims of someone else's carelessness. Do you know who might have tried to use it? I have a pretty good guess, I said quietly. After hanging up, I sat at my kitchen table, phone in hand, pulse still racing. This wasn't just spite anymore. It was an attempt to take back control, to remind me he still could. By noon, my phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. Nice try blocking me. You can't erase what we had, Amy. I deleted it without replying. But the next one came seconds later. You ruined my life. I lost my job because of your drama. You did that yourself, I typed back, then stopped myself before hitting send. I deleted the draft. No response was the loudest response. That evening, Mia came over with takeout. She'd become my lifeline through this mess. We sat on the couch, cartons of noodles between us, my phone face down on the table. How are you holding up? She asked. Honestly? I'm just tired. Every time I think it's over, he finds a new way to crawl back into my life. That's what control freaks do, she said. They can't stand not being in charge of the narrative. Her words echoed something my dad used to say when I was younger. People who lose power always try to take something with them. Later that night, after Mia left, I checked my email before bed. A new message sat at the top of my inbox, sent just 10 minutes earlier. No subject line. When I opened it, I froze. It was a photo, my apartment building, taken from outside, tonight. A chill ran through me so sharp it made my breath catch. The next line in the email read, "Miss me yet?" No signature, but I didn't need one. My hands trembled as I forwarded the email to myself for backup, then called my brother, Nathan. He lived 20 minutes away. Stay calm, he said. I'm coming over. By the time he arrived, my heart had slowed to a steady, frightened rhythm. We checked the hallway, the parking lot, the shadows near the streetlights. Nothing. Adam was gone, if he'd even been there at all. But the image in my inbox was proof enough that the boundaries were gone too. Nathan looked at me, jaw tight. You need to go to the police. I don't have proof it was him, I said. You don't need proof to start a record. File a report, Amy. Now, the next morning, I did exactly that. Sitting in a small beige room at the precinct, I told Officer Ruiz everything: the messages, the photo, the credit card attempt. She took notes, her face unreadable but kind. "This is harassment," she said finally. "We can't arrest him yet, but we can file a report and issue a warning if he contacts you again." I nodded. "Please do." Walking home, I felt both lighter and exposed. Like putting everything on record meant acknowledging the full extent of what he'd become. That night, I finally blocked his email, changed every password, and enabled two-step authentication on everything I owned. It felt paranoid, but paranoia is just another word for preparation after betrayal. At 11:45 p.m., my phone vibrated one last time. This time a call from an unknown number. My stomach dropped. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Amy." His voice cracked through the receiver, raw and low. "You've turned everyone against me." "You did that yourself?" I said, my tone steady. He exhaled hard, like he was trying not to cry. "You don't understand. I loved you. Everything I did was for us. Following me? Using my card? That's love? I wanted to talk. You lost that right when you started stalking me, Adam." There was silence. Then a faint laugh, bitter and broken. "You think you're safe because of a police report? You're not." The line went dead. I sat in the dark, the sound of my own breathing filling the room. Every instinct screamed fear, but beneath it, something else stirred. Defiance. I'd spent years letting him control the tone of our relationship. Now, he was losing his grip, and I could see how much it scared him. I didn't call him back. I didn't text. Instead, I called Nathan again, explained what happened, and he insisted on staying the night. When he arrived, he dropped his duffel by the door and said, "He's testing you, Amy." "Waiting to see if you'll flinch?" "Well," I said, locking the door behind him, "he's about to find out I don't." As I lay in bed, listening to the faint city hum outside, I realized something profound. Fear only holds power when you let it. And that night, for the first time since everything began, I didn't flinch. For a few days after filing the police report, things went eerily quiet. No calls, no emails, no late-night knocks. I started to believe maybe Adam had finally realized he couldn't reach me anymore. I even began to breathe normally again, going to work without checking over my shoulder, sleeping without the phone clutched in my hand. But peace with someone like Adam is never peace. It's the silence before another hit. It started small. On Wednesday morning, I walked out to my car and noticed a long scratch running from the back door to the front fender. Not deep enough to be an accident, but deliberate. Careful. My stomach twisted, but I took a photo and added it to the growing file I kept labeled evidence. By Friday, strange rumors began circulating at work. Hannah, my manager, pulled me aside after lunch. "Amy, I don't want to alarm you, but someone's been calling the office asking questions about you. Personal ones." "Who?" I asked. They didn't say. The receptionist thought it sounded like a man. He asked if you'd been fired yet. The blood drained from my face. I didn't need to ask who it was. Adam wasn't just angry anymore. He was trying to dismantle my stability piece by piece. That evening, I met my brother Nathan and his wife at a small diner. They'd been checking in regularly since the police report. I told them everything about the scratched car, the calls, the quiet dread that hung over every normal moment. Nathan leaned forward, jaw clenched. "You need a restraining order, Amy." "I already talked to the police. They said they'd monitor the situation." He shook his head. "Then you make them. You go back there with every photo, every message, every call record. You push until they take you seriously. I promised I would." But deep down, I knew Adam's game was about more than revenge. It was about control. He wanted me scared enough to react, desperate enough to reach out. And that's exactly what I refused to give him. That night, I stayed at Nathan's house. His wife, Sarah, made up the guest room and left a nightlight on in the hallway like I was a child again. It was strange how comforting that small glow felt. But sometime around 2 a.m., I woke to my phone vibrating on the nightstand. An unknown number again. I let it ring twice before swiping to answer. "Amy," a voice whispered, low and trembling. "It's me." I didn't respond. The silence stretched between us like a wire pulled too tight. "I messed up," Adam continued. "I've been drinking. I just wanted to talk to you, to explain." "There's nothing to explain," I said quietly. "I lost my job. My friends won't talk to me. You turned everyone against me." "No, Adam. You did that yourself." He sighed shakily. "You always make me the villain. You don't understand what it's like watching everything fall apart." "I do," I said, voice steady. "Because I lived through it while you lied to me." He went quiet for a few seconds, then said, almost childlike, "Can I come over? Just to talk?" "No. Please, Amy. I don't have anywhere else to go." "You have plenty of places to go," I said, thinking of Tessa. "Just not here." The tone in his voice shifted then, from pleading to something darker. "You'll regret this." "Good night, Adam," I said, and hung up. The next morning, I drove straight to the police station with my phone in hand. Officer Ruiz recognized me immediately. "New contact?" she asked. I nodded, showing her the call log and the screenshot of his threats. She took notes again, expression tightening. "This is enough for a restraining order. We'll expedite it." Filing the paperwork took hours, but when I walked out of that building, holding the temporary order in my hand, I felt a shift inside me, like I'd drawn an invisible line he could no longer cross. That weekend, I changed my locks again, bought security cameras for the front door, and told my landlord everything. He was sympathetic and even offered to install extra lighting in the parking lot. For the first time, I wasn't reacting out of fear. I was preparing. On Sunday night, I was brushing my teeth when my phone buzzed again. This time, a text from Tessa. "You've really ruined his life. I hope you're proud of yourself." I stared at the message for a long time before replying. "He ruined his own life, Tessa. And if you're smart, you'll stay out of this before he ruins yours too." No response came, but that same night, I noticed a shadow move across the camera feed outside my door. Just a flicker, then gone. Nathan came over immediately when I told him. He checked the footage frame by frame until he found it. A tall figure in a hoodie, pausing at my door, then turning away. The face wasn't visible, but the posture was unmistakable. "Adam." Nathan exhaled sharply. "He's breaking the order already." "Then we call the police," I said. I didn't even hesitate this time. As we waited for the patrol car to arrive, I realized how much I'd changed. The old me, the one who apologized too easily and hoped love would fix everything, would have still been trying to reason with him. But this Amy? She understood that some people only stop when consequences start. And as the red and blue lights flashed outside my window, I whispered to myself, "Let this be the last time he crosses that line." The night the patrol car arrived, everything moved in slow motion. The flashing lights painted my apartment walls red and blue, turning my calm little home into a scene from someone else's life. 2 officers came up to my door. One of them, Officer Ruiz, recognized me immediately. "Miss Carter," she said gently, "we saw the footage. You did the right thing calling us." Nathan stood behind me, arms crossed, his expression set somewhere between anger and exhaustion. "He was here less than a week after the restraining order," he said. "What happens now?" Ruiz sighed. "We'll issue a warrant for questioning. If we catch him near the property again, he'll be arrested. For now, stay somewhere safe." But I was done running. I looked her straight in the eye. "I'm not leaving my home again because of him." She nodded, understanding. "Then keep your cameras rolling, and if he so much as breathes near this building, call us." The officers left around midnight. Nathan insisted on staying one more night, sleeping on the couch while I tried to rest. But I didn't sleep. I sat up, scrolling through the footage again and again, memorizing the frame where he stood, motionless, just staring at my door. By morning, I felt hollow. Not afraid anymore, just tired. Tired of being the prey in a story he thought he still controlled. When Nathan left for work, he hugged me and said, "He's losing power, Amy." That's why he's desperate. I wanted to believe that. That afternoon, I worked from home, laptop open by the window, the camera feed minimized in the corner of my screen. The sun dipped slowly, and for the first time in weeks, I almost felt normal. I even made dinner, simple pasta and wine, and sat on the couch, letting a movie play in the background. Then, at 9:37 p.m., my phone buzzed. A single message. Unknown number. "You really think a piece of paper can stop me?" My heart stilled. I took a deep breath, screenshot the text, and forwarded it directly to Officer Ruiz with a short message. "He's contacting me again." Same number as before. She replied almost instantly. "Stay inside." "Patrol is on the way." I put the phone down and looked around the apartment. The quiet hum of the fridge, the soft flicker of the TV. It all felt fragile, temporary, like the calm before a storm that already knew my address. And then came the sound I'd been dreading. Footsteps in the hallway. Slow. Heavy. Then the doorknob rattled. Every muscle in my body locked. The sound came again, harder this time, followed by his voice. "Amy, I just want to talk." The voice I used to fall asleep to. The voice that once said "I love you" like it meant something. Now it sounded hollow, almost unhinged. I didn't move. I didn't speak. "Amy," he said again, his tone sharper now. "Open the door before this gets worse." Through the peephole, I saw him, hoodie pulled up, eyes darting, one hand gripping something metallic. My throat closed. Then, faintly, the distant wail of sirens. He froze. A shout echoed down the hall. "Police!" Step back from the door. Adam turned, panic flickering across his face. He tried to bolt toward the stairwell, but 2 officers rounded the corner. The scene unfolded in flashes, commands shouted, hands raised, the thud of footsteps. Then the click of cuffs. I exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. When Officer Ruiz knocked on my door a few minutes later, I opened it, shaking but steady. "He's in custody," she said. "We'll process him tonight." "You're safe now." Those words, "you're safe now," felt surreal. I nodded, thanked her, and sat on the couch once more. The movie was still playing, characters laughing like nothing in the world had changed. But for me, everything had. The next morning, I went to the station to give my final statement. Ruiz told me Adam had multiple pending charges now: harassment, attempted trespassing, violation of a restraining order. "He'll be facing real consequences this time," she said. When I left the building, sunlight hit my face, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I had to glance over my shoulder. The days that followed felt quieter, peaceful in a way I'd forgotten peace could feel. I started therapy, picked up running again, and let my world slowly rebuild itself around small joys: morning coffee, long walks, phone calls with Mia that ended in laughter instead of worry. A week later, I received a message from an unknown number again. My chest tensed until I saw the sender's name: Tessa. I heard what happened. "I'm sorry. You were right about him." I stared at the message for a long time before replying. "We were both fooled. Just be careful." Her response came quickly. "He's out of my life too." I promise I didn't reply. Some things don't need answers. That evening, as I watered my plants, I thought of everything that had happened: the fear, the anger, the exhaustion. And yet, beneath it all, there was something else. Strength. Adam had tried to break me in every way he knew: emotionally, socially, financially. But all he'd done was reveal how resilient I really was. Before I went to bed, I deleted his last text, emptied the evidence folder from my phone, and whispered to myself, It's over. And this time, I believed it. The next morning, sunlight streamed through my window, soft and gold. My life was quiet again, beautifully, defiantly quiet. And if there's one thing I learned from it all, it's this. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Because second chances aren't kindness, they're invitations to repeat the same pain.